Great, now let's take a look at P4, linear equations in two variables. This again is going to be some review from, actually Algebra 1 is going to be this review. So we're looking at all these different types of things. We've got the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, horizontal line, y equals b, and again we use b because it is the y-intercept. The horizontal line goes through the y-intercept. A vertical line is x equals equation, and x equals any number, b is any number, a is any number that is in the real number system that we're looking at here. Slope formula, we have m to stand for slope. So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Parallel lines have the same exact slope, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So we want to identify the slope and y-intercept of the following lines in example 1. Well, this part A is in slope-intercept form, so we can just pick out what the slope is and what the y-intercept is. The slope is the number in front of the x, the coefficient of the x. That's a 2, and the y-intercept is the number at the end without the x. That's a -4. A better way to write that is when x is equal to 0, then y is equal to -4. So that's a better way to write it, but you could write it as y-intercept equals -4 for graphing purposes and purposes of this class. For B, we're looking at, again, finding the slope and y-intercept. Well, the easiest way to do that is to put this equation in slope-intercept form, because then that information is already there, which means I need to get the y by itself. So I subtract 5x from both sides, and I get -6y equals -5x, and then plus 10, divide by -6, and we end up with the slope being, let's rewrite that up here. So we end up, this -6's cancel, so I end up y equals a 5/6 x, and then minus 10/6, which we can reduce into 5/3. 2 goes into both of those, so I get 5/3. So then my slope is equal to 5/6, the coefficient of x, and my y-intercept is equal to 0, -5/3. And we're not graphing this, so it's okay for that fraction to be there. If you were to graph it, you would try to be as specific as you could with that y-intercept and that slope. And finally, the last problem here, we've got an x equals equation. Well, an x equals equation, if you remember the acronym VUXHOI, HOI, it's a y. Smartboard's a little off this morning. Here we go. There's a y. Okay, so VUXHOI. So a vertical line has an undefined slope and an x equals equation. That's the part of this that we want to use, is the VUX part. We don't need the HOI part. That's for a horizontal line. Okay, so I've got a vertical line. So this line is vertical, has an undefined slope. And it has an x equals equation. Okay. Well, a vertical line goes straight up and down, so if I'm looking for a y-intercept, there is no y-intercept. It does not cross the y-axis, especially when the number is x is equal to 3. So an undefined slope and no y-intercept doesn't cross it. Example 2 here, find the slope of the line that passes through the points. So we're going to use the slope equation. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So we've got, label our points x1, y1, x2, y2. So then I'm just plugging in numbers. y2 was 6, y1 is 2, x2 is 5, y1 is 4, 6 minus 2 is 4, 5 minus 4 is 1, and I end up with 4 over 1. For the next one, again following the same process, I end up with 1 minus 1 over 5 minus negative 3. So 1 minus 1 is 0, 5 minus negative 3 is actually 8. 0 divided by 8 is 0. And it's okay to have a 0 slope. A 0 slope just means that this line is a horizontal line. It continues going through y equals 1 and does not go up or down. It has a 0 slope. It rises 0 and runs 8, as the number says. Rises 0 and runs 1, as our final answer says. Part C, again, the m equals equation. Slope equation, 0 minus a negative 2 and 4 minus 4. 0 minus a negative 2 is 2. 4 minus 4 is 0. Here's where the problem comes in. I've got 2 divided by 0, so this is going to give me a vertical line with an undefined slope. So do not say that this slope is 0, because it's not. It's undefined. So we have an undefined slope with this set of 2 points. And finally, using that equation again, keep using the eraser, we've got negative 3 minus 11 over 2 minus negative 10. Negative 3 minus 11 is negative 14. Negative 2 minus negative 10, or 2 minus negative 10 is 12. I can reduce that. 2 goes into both of those, so I get negative 7 over 6 for the slope of these final 2 points. And the final set of examples, write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So we need to know that slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And that's the final form that I want to write this in. So I've got a line with a slope passing through a point. Okay? So I have the slope, I just need to find what that y-intercept is in order to have it in slope-intercept form. So there's really 3 different parts to this. There's find the slope, find what b is equal to, and then put it into y equals mx plus b form. And so I've got the slope. They told me the slope was negative 4/3, but I don't have b, because the 4 comma negative 8 is not a y-intercept. If it was a y-intercept, I would have b, but I don't. So I need to do some work to find it. So I've got y equals mx plus b is the equation that I want to use. This is an xy point, so I'm going to use it as my x and my y. So I take the y and I plug it in for negative 8. The slope was negative 4/3. My x was a 4. And what I want to find out is b. This column is finding b. So b should be the variable, the only letter that is left in this equation. So when I multiply these, I've got negative 8 is equal to negative 16/3 plus b. In order to solve for b, I need to add 16/3 to both sides. Add 16/3. Well, that means that my negative 8 has to get a common denominator. So I'm going to multiply the bottom by 3 and the top by 3. When I do that, I get negative 24/3. Negative 24/3 plus 16/3, okay, gives me negative 8/3. It's equal to b. These two things canceled out. So b is equal to negative 8/3. So I'm going to put that up here. Negative 8/3 is b. And so now my equation is y equals the slope, negative 4/3, which they gave me, x, plus the b part, which we just figured out to be negative 8/3. So I get y equals negative 4/3 x minus 8/3. For part B, a line that passes through negative 2 comma negative 10 and 6 comma negative 4. Well, this time they didn't give me the slope, so I have to find the slope. So I have to use the slope equation, which tells me to use negative 4. Let's do this, x1 and y1, x2 and y2. I get y2, which is negative 4, minus y1, which was negative 10, over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is negative 2. Negative 4 plus 10 gives me a 6. 6 minus a negative 2 gives me an 8. So I end up with 3/4 after I reduce that for my slope. So I have a slope for my new equation. Some people don't like doing this in columns, so we'll do the slope work first, and we'll plug it into our equation. So I've got 3/4 x, and I just need to find the b part. So in order to find the b, I have to choose one of the 2 points. It doesn't matter which one of the 2 points you choose, you just have to choose one of them. And when you choose one, you want to kind of be strategic about it, because we're going to plug in the x and the y into the x and the y. And so if I can find one that will reduce better, then I don't have to deal quite as much with fractions, or I can maybe make my fractions a little bit easier. And with that said, I'm going to plug this 2 into the x value and I'm going to do 3/4 times -2. Well, that's going to reduce the fraction a little bit, but if I were to do 3/4 times 6, that doesn't really reduce the fraction much at all. And so neither one of them in this case is really better. Neither one of them get rid of the denominator with the 3/4. And so I want to look at it in terms of just choosing one of them. So I'm going to choose the -2, -10 for no particular reason. And so I'm going to plug it into the equation. Let's cross this out for a minute. I'm going to plug it into the equation y equals mx plus b. And when I plug it in, I get the y value I chose was -10. The slope that we just found was 3/4. The x value I chose was -2, and I'm looking for b. So when I do 3/4 times -2, I get -6/4, which I can reduce. If I chose to multiply like this, 2 goes into 4 twice and into 2 once. So I'd get -3/2 x. Just kidding. -3/2 plus b. -3/2, I want to get the b by itself, so I'm going to add 3/2 to both sides. Again, in order to add these two things together, plug it in the calculator if you need to. Otherwise, -10 plus 3/2 make a common denominator by multiplying the top and bottom of -10/1 times 2. So I get -20/2 plus 3 gives me -17/2, which is what b comes out to be. So then my final part of my equation, I have b is equal to -17/2. So I found the slope and I found b, and then I finished by writing the equation. I don't care if you put it in columns or you do them separately. It doesn't really matter to me, but you should choose one to do. Part C, parallel to y equals 3x plus 4 and passing through 0, 9. Well, when I look at parallel means that it has the same exact slope. And so that means that the slope of my line is going to have the same slope of the line that they gave us, which is a 3. And it passes through 0, 9. Well, the other thing that I'm looking for is the y-intercept. This is a y-intercept. 0, 9 is the y-intercept. And so I know that b is equal to 9. So I can write my equation, y equals 3x plus 9, without having to do all the rest of the work. If you didn't recognize that 0, 9 was a y-intercept, then you would need to go through. You would need to set the equation up, plug the point 0, 9 into the equation, and let me show you the work there. Y equals mx plus b. I'm going to use 0, 9, so y is equal to 9. The slope that we had was 3, x is 0, and I'm going to find b. Well, 3 times 0 is 0, plus b is equal to 9. Well, 0 plus b is the same thing as b is equal to 9. So hey, if you wanted to do the work, that's fine, but you could have eliminated all that extra work, chances for mistakes, by recognizing that that's a slope in a y-intercept already. And the same thing really happens in D. The key thing that we're looking for here is perpendicular. So perpendicular means that the slopes are opposites and reciprocals of each other. So the slope of the equation they gave us is 5/9. And so my slope is going to be the opposite of that, which is a negative, and the reciprocal. So instead of 5/9, it's going to be 9/5. And then my equation that I'm looking for passes through 0, -4. Again, they gave us the y-intercept. So my b is actually equal to -4. So I can write this equation without having to do much work besides knowing that perpendicular is the opposite reciprocal slope. So make sure you're looking for those shortcuts in here. If you find the shortcuts, then you want to use them because they make the work a lot faster for us. That ends our section on P4 with writing equations of lines.